Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Michael Brady. I prefer to go by Mike. I'm a bit informal, but if that's too informal for you, I'm happy to do Dr. Brady or Professor, whatever works for you. Now, this will be a fully online class with no set class times. And so I always like to start these classes, especially with a little bit of a chat from me to you, because it's always difficult to set up that personal relationship with the professor in a fully online class. And so this short video will have a little bit about myself to start so you can get a feel for how what my background is, a little bit about the class, including the structure of the class and how I grade, how I look at grading. And then finally, I'll end with some contact information and a plea for you to please use me in the class as a resource. Okay? So before I start with any of that education stuff, I took a long time to end up in philosophy. I have a background. I'm originally from the Massachusetts area. Boston area is most of my family. I grew up on Cape Cod, which is a tourist area on the ocean, a famous beach town south of Boston. And it's really quite lovely there if you love oceans. Otherwise, it's kind of a small town feel, but and very quiet in the winter when there's no tourists. And I went to my undergrad at UMass Boston, and that type of school is what we call in philosophy, a very analytic school. And so I got a background in logic and certain types of analytic philosophy there. Then I switched completely in philosophy and did my master's degree at Boston College. Now, Boston College is basically the opposite of UMass. And so I have a very broad philosophical background. And Boston College is what's called the Continental School. So it's a lot more focused on literature, and especially on existentialism and ancient medieval literature, things like that. And so I got a very good background in history, especially history of philosophy and literature at that school. But while I was there, I grew very, very interested in really two main philosophers, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. They're both famous early American philosophers. Especially they're known for their environmental push, which I'll get to later. And when I started looking around and growing those types of interests, I saw that I really was mostly interested in American philosophy, especially American pragmatism. So American pragmatism is a bit of a small focus area in philosophy. And so there was not many places you could go in the US to study that. And so one of them was the John Dewey Center at Southern Illinois University. And I worked with the main person running the Dewey Center at the time, and did my dissertation on American pragmatism and its relationship to science, especially evolution. And so that's my educational background. Now, most of my teaching has been for, say, the last 12 years or so, focused on a few areas, most especially on environmental ethics. And that's my main area of expertise as a teacher, not as a researcher. But I also have taught ethics, intro to philosophy, logic, bioethics, always with a focus on pragmatism and several other things that you won't really care about. Okay, so that's my background. And the reason I like to bring this up is that I have a very broad philosophical background, a non-traditional philosophical background. And for me, at least, literature is a strong part of that background, especially the literature that I studied with Emerson and Thoreau and others. And so that is one of the things that feeds into my worldview of what the good life is. I spent, as I mentioned, doing lots and lots of things. I've had a job I started out after high school going in the military. I was also a truck driver later on. I worked in a family business doing computer sales and computer tech, which I didn't really like, even though I did learn a lot. I did heating and air conditioning. I done a lot of things in my life. I was always kind of looking for the good life. And I really did find it in philosophy and in the academic world. I really, really like to do this. I think it's fun. I am constantly pushed by things I read and by students that I encounter. And for me, my background feeds into all of this. But it's not just academic. I have other things that I'm strongly interested in. I'm out in my garage gym pretty much every night. I'm a bit of a nut. I really do work out pretty crazily. And even though I'm getting older and I got to be a little more careful now, I'm still pretty serious. And so I'm out there lifting, running, sprints, hills, sandbags, kettlebells, squats, all kinds of stuff. Happy to chat about it if you're interested. Secondarily, I'm also a bit of an outdoor person, as you might guess from my environmental ethics background. Whenever I get a chance, I'm out hiking and camping, almost usually alone. I prefer to go solo, sometimes with my dog. Um, Most of those pictures there are taken from Montana. My daughter lives in Montana, and I visit her most summers and spend, a good amount of time up in the mountains, hiking and camping and visiting her as well. And I also do a lot of canoeing. And I used to sea kayak, but I don't really live near the ocean anymore, and so I've switched to canoeing. And that's my canoe there. And pretty much any time when it's warm and decent weather, I'm out there canoeing. And these things are important for you to know about me because they really do feed into my worldview and how I approach a class like the Good Life. Now let's talk a little bit about the class itself. We'll have an introductory week, and the introductory week will basically get to know ourselves, know each other a little bit, and know your classmates a little bit. It'll be very informal. There won't be any hard assignments, just some, meeting up with others' assignments. But after that, we'll follow a 3 weeks cycle. Every 3 weeks will be roughly the same. The first week will be an easy week where I'll do most of the explaining and expect you to just do some listening and a little short assignment. The second one will be a mix. It'll be a little bit harder than the first week, and it'll require some work from you. And that's a medium assignment, I would call it. And then the third week will be a bit of a heavier lift for you. It will be some reading, sometimes some long reading, depending on, later in the semester, there'll be longer readings, and writing. There'll always be a writing on that third week. And so this is how it'll cycle. After that hard week, we'll go back to an easy week. You can see my fitness background there. You don't want to stress anyone too much. It gets exhausting. And so the semester will largely work in this fashion in 3 week cycles. Easy, medium, harder. Easy, medium, harder, like that. And there'll also be a bit of a rest week somewhere in the middle. We'll see how that goes. And so that's how the semester will work. Now, for grading, I'm a weird mix of two different things. In one sense, I'm a very easy grader on individual assignments. If you put in some effort and do some work, I almost always just give full points. Your grade is almost entirely up to you. If you do all the assignments and you meet the minimum standard for all the assignments, which I'll specify on Canvas, you'll get an A or B. That's generally how it works. It's that simple. If you do the work, you get an A. Very little of it will be my subjective decision about anything. That's how I structure my classes. Now, that doesn't mean that if you drop below the minimum standard, I might not lower your grade. I might have to, although I'm very gentle about it, and I want you to try to improve. However, the main way to get a bad grade in my class is missing assignments. There's an assignment every week. Now, they're often not hard. I mentioned this in the last slide. Sometimes the assignments are quite short. It's quite easy, but they still count. Every week has an assignment, okay? So if you keep those things in mind, do the assignments, do them every week, even the easy ones and then the harder ones too, you're looking at an A or a B in the class. It's that simple, but it's almost entirely up to you. And all those details will be for the specific assignments will be on Canvas. Now, finally, I really do like my job. I try to stress this because it's a little bit hard for people in a fully online class to want to contact the professor and ask them questions. Sometimes they feel like they're bothering me, but it's not. It's my duty to help you, and I love it. It's my job. I really do like philosophy. I really do like ideas. The idea of the good life is an important one to me. It's not, something I'm doing just as a class. I'm myself trying to find my best life every moment. Okay? So you're not bothering me. You're not putting me out. It's not upsetting or difficult for me to deal with your small questions or even big questions. So feel free, please. Little things like I don't know how to do on this discussion post, just message me. Happy to help. Okay? You have something longer, email. We can set up a Zoom anytime. Okay? I really, it's not only is it my obligation to help you, but it's also my love. I love my job. Okay? So please make sure to use me as a resource. And if you want to talk about other things, I have a list of a bunch of stuff there. We don't have to talk just philosophy, just literature, just the good life. We can also talk about other things, sports, fitness, exercise, hiking, canoeing, kayaking. And also, I know way too much about US politics, a good amount about world politics. I know a ton about economics, especially how it relates to democracy. And I know a lot about science, especially biological sciences. So if that's anywhere in your thing, you want to talk economics with me, happy to do it. Okay. Want to talk politics, happy to do it. So it doesn't have to be just class related. If you want to just chat, happy to just chat. Okay. So remember, please use me as a resource for the class. Contact me with anything small or big. All right. And I'll see you as we go forward in the class.